Even though a very vocal minority of you believe my channel should only contain peasant or analog or acoustic or muscle or traditional bicycles, in reality, my channel has motorized cycles all over it. Some use electricity, others burn gasoline, and others are a hybrid, burning both gas and oil. I have to admit, I have a love-hate relationship with electric mountain bikes, but I'm super excited to see where the industry will land in the next 5 years. The first electric mountain bike you saw on my channel was this Intense Taser, which I started to arrange back in late 2019. Since then, you've seen the Bosch-equipped Niner WFO E9, the Norco Sight VLT, both the carbon and aluminum versions of the famous Orbea Rise, the Evil Apocalypse, and finally the Rocky Mountain Instinct Powerplay. Through all of this, I've learned something that's honestly been very surprising. As usual, here we are in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, where it is green and lush and oh so beautiful. But what you can't tell is that it's not actually all that hot. At the same time, there's quite a bit of moisture in the air. It's humidity. And as we're pedaling up these steep, punchy climbs over the roots and all that, well, we're working up quite a sweat. One thing you can do to kind of get a little more bang for your buck performance-wise is use a really simple electrolyte supplement. I've been lucky enough to partner with the folks over at Element, spelled LMNT, and make a really simple electrolyte supplement. These are just potassium, magnesium, sodium, a tiny bit of stevia. I put one of these in my water bottle in order to supplement my larger hydration pack for those bigger days. If you want to try Element, for a limited time, Element's got a special offer going from the link in my description down below, drinkelement, lmnt.com/Jeff, Jeff, or they'll include a free sample pack with any purchase from their website. This is the watermelon salt flavor. It's pretty good. It's keeping us going today. Stay salty, everyone. Before we move along, I want to share something I told some dude in a parking lot post-ride. It's easy to get up, but once you've gotten past the novelty of going up, it's lower quality down.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Intense Taser is my first extended e-mountain bike experience. And just like Biopace, mullet wheels, purple parts, inverted fork, that bike may have been pretty far ahead of its time. The small yet swappable 500 watt-hour Shimano battery was absolutely genius. Since the release of the specialized Levo SL and Orbea Rise lines of bikes, both in 2020, we've seen the industry splinter into two completely different directions with eMTB. Basically, one direction for those that work in the bike industry and have hours and hours of free time to go out and ride, described as testing, and another direction for those that don't work in the bike industry and who only have about 2 or 3 hours to ride, usually just e-biking on their local mountain bike trips. As a busy parent of a first grader, I don't really have 4 to 6 hours to head out into the woods for epic Vision Quest rides. Instead, I too am lucky to get a quick 2 hours or so to ride. And you know what? That old 500 watt-hour battery was plenty for a good 2-hour ride. Sure, you couldn't ride and boost the whole time, but trail setting has a similar feel and allows for nearly double the battery life. I could gluttonously attain about 4,000 feet of vert with one of those batteries during the cold, muddy winter. That's similar, if not a touch more, than the aluminum Orbea Rise today. Most modern e-bikes use larger batteries, typically housed in the down tube. Just like children, as they grow, they become problematic, and all that new swagger gets in the way of sensibility. The extra battery weight at the top of the down tube is up high, almost near the bars, and becomes a bit of a buzzkill. If you like to jump and wheelie and pop, it's a lot of weight gluing those wheels to the ground. I'm not really understanding why we need more power than the 60 Nm of torque on the Orbea Rise. The Rocky claims nearly double that, but the reality is that a bicycle tire cannot get sufficient traction to really apply that torque. Nor is the geometry and weight distribution anywhere close to what it would need to be to utilize all that power. And since the overall power is limited to a max of 1 horsepower, 750 watts, there is still very little overall power to play with. But that doesn't even really matter. In reality, people want to ride the same mountain bike trails they always rode on their peasant bikes. People don't want to try motorcycle hill climbs. Peasant climbs are almost never steep enough to require boost mode on the Rise, so do they really need more? Probably a bad idea, but we're in boost. This is hard on an eBiz, easier on a pedal bike because you can bounce higher. Woo! Let's celebrate with a wheelie. Now I love that Rocky Mountain power play, and only more so once I upgraded the suspension. The heavier your vessel is, the more critical your suspension damping becomes. When I swapped the power play's shock to a Foxflow X2 and the fork to a 38 Grip 2, it really opened up what the bike could do. The Apocalypse came along with the RockShox Super Deluxe rear shock and Zeb fork, and that also provided a good bit of damping. Despite Rocky Mountain's high pivot on the power play, the bike did feel eager to find flight. Now, I want to say that Rocky Mountain has consistently got me quite stoked on their bikes with little expectation on my part, so I do hope they make a smaller version with the same power play system. Rocky makes really, really good bikes. Because I liked this Rocky so much, I have to wonder, what would it be like with a slightly smaller battery closer down to the bottom bracket? I feel like I'm dreaming about a unicorn of an e-bike, something that can still get around okay, but doesn't have a ton of weight out front. If only there was some kind of a solution where we could have potentially options with one e-bike. While on a road trip last month, I got a moment to ride my friend Brian's original Intense Taser from 2020.
If you feel comfortable, we could trade for a minute and I can
Sure.
try your coil shock.
I'm gonna try to ride a size XL.
And I'm gonna try to ride the size
Extra
extra small.
small. Extra medium, thank you very much. 5'8", almost 5'9".
Now, with over 3,000 miles on this bike, he tends to ride it because his shoddy knees are more comfortable with a slightly slacker seat angle. And yes, he predominantly rides it with the motor actually turned off. We swapped bikes for a bit, and wow, that Taser was cool. So much easier to pop and jump when the bike's equipped with more battery.
Oh, this thing jumps better. Oh, man. Yeah, I had one of these for 8 months or something. 6 months.
You did?
Yeah.
For a while. I knew you said you had one, I just didn't know if you had it for a very long time.
Maybe it was 6 months, I don't know.
Yeah, that's long enough.
I filmed a few videos with it. I really quite liked it. I mean, it's still an e-bike, but the more e-bikes I've ridden, the more I come back to like, that thing was pretty good. So thanks for the reminder.
But my favorite part of all this is that Intense sells a replacement battery for only $570. Toss that 6-pound battery in your hydration pack for those days when your kid is off at summer camp. And you know what? You can definitely get a longer ride. Or you can even leave that battery in the van and swap it back in after a couple of laps. The two swappable batteries combine to have more range than a single mega battery, and the bike, as a result, is quite a bit lighter. I'd go so far as to argue that riding with a single battery on your back is more fun than riding with a huge battery attached to your head tube. The weight distribution is much more rearward, and if you're riding for that long, chances are you'll need water in that sandwich in your backpack anyhow. Moving forward, I hope the idea of a swappable battery can find more success among the mountain bike industry. I also hope e-bike designers realize that expensive suspension designs really aren't needed when the motor makes up for so much inefficiency, or that the slightly slacker 74 or 75 degree seat angles are plenty when the pedaling motion is simply for cadence and much less for power. Heck, it's a lot easier to balance a bike that has that slightly slacker seat angle when it gets to technical climbing moves. Recently, I really enjoyed the Apocalypse in power play, but I gotta give props where they're due, and the Intense Taser does have some cool stuff going for it. Let me know in the comments below, how wrong am I on my take for the futuristic Taser? This bike was designed nearly 5 years ago. In a perfect world, I'd love a bike with so many of the attributes of the Rocky Mountain, but with one of those hot swappable batteries. I think moving that weight further back would make an already good bike an absolutely incredible bike. I think Intense deserves a little tip of the hat there. They were ahead of the curve with the old Taser. Big thanks to Element for their support, and to all of you for watching and subscribing. I'll see y'all in the comments down below.